The 131st constitutional amendment regarding the women's quota in parliament seats has fallen flat. This happened despite the bill receiving more yes votes than no votes. The constitutional amendment bill requires a simple majority of the total members of the House, but also needs a special two-thirds majority of the total members present and voting. While the women's quota bill met the first criterion, it failed the second. The proposed legislation received 298 votes in favor and 230 against. This means that while the bill enjoyed a simple majority, it did not command the two-thirds of yes votes required to pass as a constitutional amendment. Out of 528 members who voted, the bill required 352 votes for a two-third majority. According to the Constitution Amendment Bill, Lok Sabha seats were to be increased to a maximum of 850 from the current 543 to operationalize the women's reservation law before the 2029 parliamentary polls. Seats were also to be increased in states and union territory assemblies to accommodate 33% reservation for women. Two other bills, including one for delimitation and increasing the number of seats in the Lok Sabha, were not put to a vote after the first one lost, with the centre saying that they were intrinsically linked to the legislation related to women's reservation. Let's see the reason behind the failure. While motions for the introduction of constitution amendment bills are adopted by a simple majority, a majority of the total membership of the House and a majority of not less than two-thirds of the members present and voting are required for the adoption of effective clauses and for the consideration and passing of these bills. Constitution amendment bills affecting vital issues as enlisted in the provision to Article 368 Clause 2 of the Constitution after having been passed by the House of Parliament have also to be ratified by not less than one-half of the state legislators. Opposition parties strongly objected to the delimitation bill and said that the government should implement women's reservation immediately in the existing strength of the Lok Sabha. They expressed their full support for women's reservation. Now, the question is, why can't 33% reservation for women simply be implemented in the existing 543-seat Lok Sabha right now? What opposition government has said and why OBC question remains. The 33% reservation for women in the Lok Sabha and state assemblies is already low. The Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiyan was passed unanimously by Parliament in September 2023 and notified in the Gazette just this week on April 16, 2026, even when a debate on its implementation timeline via an amendment bill was underway. This amendment bill failed to pass the two-thirds majority test in the Lok Sabha, hence never even made it to the Rajya Sabha. Related bills about delimitation and about application to union territories were never presented once the mother bill failed. But that law, as written, cannot be implemented yet. It is tied to a specific sequence. A fresh census must first be completed, followed by a delimitation exercise to relocate and redraw constituencies. And only then does the reservation come into force. Under this original timeline, implementation would not be possible before 2034 at the earliest. As the first step, the latest census has only just started. The census then delimitation then quota condition was not something the opposition asked for. The obstacle to implementing reservation on the current 543 seats on the surface at least is a condition that the government inserted into the 2023 law. 30 months later, it wants to remove that stipulation, but wants to use older census data to change the Lok Sabha composition for it. When the 2023 law was passed, Amit Shah told Parliament that a census would be carried out right after the 2024 elections and that the next government would go in for delimitation soon after. The 2021 census was already due by then, having been delayed by COVID and other mostly unexplained reasons. The government now came back in 2026 proposing to use the 2011 census instead. But the opposition did not agree on two counts. The question of regional disparity needed to be addressed for the long term first, and the question of a set share for other backward classes too. The latest census will and truly got underway only earlier this month. A big part of that is also the caste census being conducted for all participants for the first time in nearly 100 years. So far, only the scheduled castes and tribes SC/ST are counted in terms of caste, but there were demands for decades to also count the other backward classes OBC. That is now being done. During the 3-day special session, now the government did not provide an express constitutional argument for why reservation could not be implemented on the current 543 seats. It provided an arithmetical explanation instead. Amit Shah's argument in the Lok Sabha was that if 33% reservation were applied to, say, Tamil Nadu's existing 39 seats, only 13 seats would be reserved for women, leaving 26 open for all. If these seats were increased to 59 in total, 20 would be reserved for women and 39 would remain open. The government's case essentially means more open seats for everyone, more reserved seats for women too. The government has not argued that implementing reservation on 543 seats is constitutionally impossible. The only legal obstacle is that the text of the original women's quota law of 2023, which Parliament could amend. Running beneath the entire debate is a constitutional gap that no government has yet addressed, that the other backward classes OBCs have no political reservation in Parliament or state assemblies. SC and ST seats exist in proportion to their population mandated by Articles 330 and 332 of the Constitution. The demand for OBC quota, even within the umbrella reservation for women, is not new. It is, in fact, a primary reason why women's reservation remained blocked in Parliament for years. The 81st Constitutional Amendment Bill for 33% women's reservation was first introduced in 1996 and again in 1997 and 1998, but lapsed each time. A 2008 bill during the Congress-led UPA time passed the Rajya Sabha test in 2010, but was never voted on in the Lok Sabha. Political consensus could not emerge. The 2023 Women's Reservation passed with consensus, and it provides for reservation within the existing SC and ST quota, meaning SC and ST women get reserved seats within the seats already reserved for their communities. OBC women get nothing equivalent because there is no OBC political reservation to begin with. The Constitution does not provide for that. The demand from the SP, RJD, Congress and others for a sub-quota for OBC women within women's reservation is constitutionally impossible without a prior amendment creating OBC political reservation. Where things stand on women quota now, for now, the 3 bills for use of 2011 census for redrawing the Lok Sabha and thus women's quota as per that have fallen. The 2023 women's quota law remains on the books, but it is not implementable without delimitation. And the delimitation question itself has remained unresolved for 50 years. It was last done in 1970s and then pushed for 25 years twice. Besides the OBC quota demand, there is a more fundamental question that remains unresolved.